Guys, we can't hear.
Apologies to those on Teams who didn't hear my introduction. That was on me for not unmuting the microphones. But that's life. All I did was go through the how council works, but that's also been posted into the chat, or should have been. It's in the previous things as well. So hopefully that isn't knowledge that you already know. Okay. First order of business is to correct any errors or otherwise approve the minutes from the last meeting. So if anyone has any objections, also please be courteous and remember at the end, accountants, okay. At the end of the meeting, there are tokens that Connor has, so feel free to mob him for those, and those gives you a free drink at Lufa's. The mobbing was a joke, please don't mob Connor, he's very nice. Okay, so minutes of the previous meeting. If anyone has any objections to the minutes of the previous meeting, can you please type A into the chat, or otherwise if you have questions regarding the previous minutes, please do the same. Otherwise, I'll give you about 10 seconds, and if I hear nothing, I will assume that there are no objections or questions. Okay, those minutes of the previous meeting are passed. The next thing is the steering committee report that I am aware that we have already received an objection to. Sorry, I'm looking at different documents. Apologies. Okay, before that exciting bit that I've given you a bit of forewarning towards, we have the student union elections. So the first one that is coming up is the ethics and environment rep. Did we receive any advance nominations? So. Okay, cool. So we have one nomination already received from Mukalan Divajaran Suresh, but if anyone else would like to nominate themselves for the Ethics and Environment Rep, can you please type in your name and that position into the chat? The other positions that we have are for Students with Faith or Belief, and we have nominations from Damali Kayonda, Sahel Mohammed Mathvan, Mohammed Chowdhury, Lizzie Mead, and Mania Amar Abidat. If anyone else wishes to put themselves forward for that position, could you please type in your name in the chat with that position? Equally, steering, scrutiny are both for next year. Have no current nominations, but if you wish to put your name forward for either of those committees, please type your name, as George has amazingly illustrated right on time, into the chat for that. And we also have the senior returning officer. So I'll give everyone a minute just to consider those roles. Actually, Livia, would you mind just giving a quick introduction about what steering is, please, whilst people are considering? This one, please. For the senior returning officer,
So steering, oh, that's quite loud. So steering committee is essentially, we get all the motions that get proposed to come to council. We look at them, assess them, make amendments so that they kind of align with our values and align with the way that we run things at NUSU, and whether they would be able to go through as a council motion, and just kind of check them, make sure things are all right, and then they come over to council. It's just so that, to make sure that not just like random things are being put into council. It's just a nice way if you want to like be a bit more involved in council and learn about the motions that are going through and understand the way that works. It's a really nice committee. We meet on the Tuesday the week before council, and then sometimes if there's a second steering needed, we'd meet on the Tuesday before council. They're usually at about 12 o'clock on a lunchtime, so you're welcome to bring your lunch to them, because usually I'm starving by that point. But yeah, that's steering really.
thank you. Would the current chair of scrutiny like to just use the mic at the back to quickly tell what scrutiny does?
So the Scrutiny Committee basically meets to discuss the operation reports of NUSU, and then that's basically it. We basically read through them, and then check that they're all within the guidance for NUSU. Yeah, that's it. Also, quick question: is there not meant to be one for disciplinary committee?
No.
No. Okay, that's fair enough.
Great.
That seems weird.
Thank you. Okay, so we've only had one. We had no further, so the only nomination for the Ethics and Environment Rep is currently on screen. You all have about 10 seconds to raise any objections to this nomination in chat by typing in A, otherwise this will be considered elected. Okay, that's passed, so congratulations to Michaela. You are the Ethics and Environment Rep. Okay, so as we have several candidates, Students with Faith or Belief officer, I'd like to invite them one by one to give a 2-minute pitch that is being broadcasted to everyone as well as being to council, and it'll also be posted as a separate video after council in terms of why you should be elected into the role. So is Damali Kayondo present either in person or virtually? Oh, would you like to come to the podium, please? And you have 2 minutes to give a pitch, starting now.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Damali Kayondo, and I'm a first-year electrical engineering student, and I'd like to be your faith and belief officer for the coming year. And so why would I want to be your faith and belief officer? My reason is because of the experience I've had with faith. So I joined a faith community a few years ago. I've been a Christian a few years, and it's been a great experience for me. And I believe it's sort of the same experience for all students in faith communities, because faith communities are sort of a safe space for students or people to sort of bring their big questions about life or lifestyles, and it's been a safe space for me, and I believe it's the same for them as well. Another thing about faith communities is family, because faith is among other communities. It's not just about what you do, but it's about doing life with people of the same mindset, and university, sort of everyone is coming from home, whether it's just a city away or a country away. But faith is one of the communities that sort of helps you to adjust in well and meet people with the same mindset. So I want to help students in their different faith communities with their different activities to promote the faith community, so that new students or even current students who don't know that these communities exist could find that different communities they sort of want to belong to, and to also coordinate the annual activities they have and sort of help them with the help they need. Yeah, I'd like to be a faith and belief officer. Thank you.
Thank you. You were 2 seconds shy. That was good. I'd like to, well, firstly, is Sahil Mohammed Masfan either in person or online? Yeah, if Sahil, whenever you're ready, if you want to unmute yourself and give your 2-minute pitch.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm running for the belief office. So, person of faith myself, in Newcastle, I've been involved with for various activities over time, and the ISOC president for last year, and we did activities to encourage the practice of faith and belief only on campus and in their personal lives. So I believe that faith and belief are very important for a student's life, especially handling mental health issues and so on. But as I see that as we speak to universities, they more tend to practice it because of a lack of community or the, I don't know, they tend to grow apart. So I would like to encourage more activities and create a community where they feel comfortable practicing their faith. That's about it.
Thank you very much. Is Muhammad Chaudhry attendance in person or virtually? Nope. Okay. In which case, we'll move on to Lizzie Mead, if you'd like to approach a microphone of your choice. And you have 2 minutes whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Mead. I would like to be your faith and belief officer. Speaking as an agnostic polytheist with an interest in Norse paganism, I definitely think that faith and belief are an important part of student life here at Newcastle. And as faith and belief officer, I would definitely want to make sure that the voices of all faith and belief communities at the university, including both societies and other organized groups, are heard by the university and the Students' Union. I would also want to foster more opportunities for interfaith discussion and collaboration in a safe environment. And lastly, I also know that not everyone necessarily has a good relationship with faith and belief, particularly as both of my parents left the Catholic Church for that reason. And so I think it would be a good idea to provide more resources on things such as leaving the religion you're in, searching for a new religion or faith community to be part of, as well as providing resources and at least one event or workshop relating to identifying, avoiding, leaving, and helping someone else leave situations related to cults and religious abuse, because that is an important issue that I don't think gets talked about much, particularly in a university environment. Other than that, I would also aim to plan at least 2 or more other sorts of events related to celebrating faith and belief on campus and the wide range of communities that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally is Munir Amar Abidat in the room. Yep, you can come to the podium and whenever you're ready.
Hey everyone, my name is Munir. I'm a first-year agriculture student. I'm an international student coming from Jordan, and I would like to be your next faith and belief officer. I've been involved with the Islamic Society, the IDC, and multiple other religious groups all across campus, and I understand their issues and what each selective group goes through. First of all, I'd like to tackle mental health. I understand students that have religious values would often face hate crimes, discrimination, or maybe racism, whether that's direct or indirect. I would like to tackle that as it affects their university life and their overall well-being by first of all, awareness that if you do have issues, you could go to the appropriate services, such as the student well-being services and campus, as well as raising and working directly with the students well-being services that they understand their issues. That's the first point. The second point is that I would like to make sure that every single student and staff in the university, whether they're practicing or non-practicing, that their issues are heard. And I would like to act as a mediator between the university and the people, the relevant bodies who have their issues, as well as encouraging communication between different religious groups in the campus and ensuring that both parties, they understand each other and they respect each other. There's a mutual respect, which could be done by organizing different events by each faith society, as well as organizing multi-religious activities. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Okay, so those were all the candidates students with faith or belief officer. This position is voted on a cross-campus ballot, so that will be open after. will be open after the end of council until noon tomorrow. So I would urge you all to make sure you go onto the NUSU website. They'll be properly signposted and cast your vote then. We've had nominations for both steering and scrutiny that are less than the full positions. These aren't contested. So in terms of George Wood for steering committee, you have 15 seconds to raise an objection by typing A into the Teams chat, otherwise that will be considered passed. Okay, that's considered passed. George Wood is now on the steering committee for the next academic year. And then we have Jack Mallison for a scrutiny committee. Same deal, 15 seconds to raise an objection by typing A into the chat, otherwise that'll be considered passed. Okay, congratulations, Jack Mallison is now on scrutiny committee. And the final bit for council to decide is the approval for the senior returning officer. I don't know, George, if you wish to just let council know what this is so they know what they're voting on. Is that okay? You can just come to one of the mics, that'd be great, please.
So the senior returning officer is an external person. It can either be a member of staff at the university or someone from NUS who will oversee our elections process to make sure they're independent, really. Tom has been doing it since, I think, about 2016, so he's very experienced and is keen to do it again. So he's looking for your nomination.
Thank you. Okay, so same deal, 15 seconds to 15 seconds to raise an objection, otherwise that will be considered approved, voted, passed, one of those three, whichever you prefer. Okay, and that is passed. I'm sure someone passed on to Tom that he got an applause for that. Just before I move on to the next order of business, I was going to do this during my opening and I forgot to, but I can do it now. I'm going to execute my right as a chair to extend the guillotine until 8 p.m. I imagine that's going to be the case, so I might as well do it now, so you're all expecting that. And additionally, so two of the later business motions had. Okay, yeah, if you set up a vote for that, on here. Oh, I'll do it now. Yeah, I'd rather do it now. I think people should know what we're expecting. Is this just... I've received a procedural motion from Abby to wait, see how we get on. I'm going to decline that on the grounds of A, that's what this vote will kind of determine, and B, if we finish early, we finish early. We don't have to run to the next guillotine. I just want to give people an expectation. I don't comment on that. But if people agree with you, they can vote against this ruling. So that's what they need to say then. point of clarity from Abby?
Sorry, I just wanted to say, like, in a role of chair, you plan your meeting according to the amount of time that you've got. So surely we're extending to 8.
That's not a point of clarity. It's not a point of clarity.
Okay.
Question from Olivia.
Yeah, so in
Could you come
steering-
to win the mic,
Yeah,
please?
can do.
Sorry. Otherwise people will fall, yeah.
So in steering, we had a total of 21 motions. I'm just questioning why we think it's going to go over when we've organised them so that for order of time, we should be all right. I don't think it needs to go on till 8 p.m. If we're efficient and things go as they should, I think we don't need this, so I just don't know why it's been done.
Not a question.
Well, it is. Why?
Because I don't think it's going to end at 7:15.
That's fair.
Fine, look, you're fine. I'll withdraw that procedural motion. We'll do it later on because I'm getting the feeling that's come what people want, so we'll go with that. The other chair ruling I wanted to make was to just, so with business motions, they are passed unless objections are received before council. None of those have happened, so it'll pass when we get to it. 2 of the procedural motions will help make council run faster, so it makes sense to me to move those now, so they can pass now, and then the next part of council will move faster and easy for everyone. That's a chair ruling I'm going to make to alter the order of business so that business motions have happened now and like I said, passed because no objections were received. Does that make sense to everyone?
Can you explain it a little bit more?
Sure. So one of the business motions is about instead of opening the floor to questions every time I tell you that our report has been passed, the questions all get asked in one go. And so it means there don't be like, any questions? Wait 10 seconds, move on. It'll all happen in one block because they'll happen together anyway. So instead of having to spend 2 minutes in silence, we'll have 15 seconds in silence. And might as well have it now, pass that now and pass it later on. So all the business motions are considered passed. Okay, right, back to the normal. Sorry for that disruption. I was meant to do it when I was doing my introduction and then I forgot, but that's life. And I'm old. I'm not. Okay, right, anyway, the steering committee report, we have received we've had to receive 2 advanced challenges towards it. Due to both my position on steering and because one of the objections is in respect to one of my motions, I don't believe I believe I have conflict of interest, so I'm going to recluse the chair. I need somebody to nominate themselves to chair this part of council. Yep. Okay, we've got 2 nominations so far. One from Lizzie, although I prefer to put your name in the chat, please, although I admit I didn't say to you to do that. So one from Lizzie, one from Fergus. I'll give another 10 seconds. Someone? Mead. For both. Okay, there's 2 objections, and I'll have the same chair for simplicity sit through both motions. That I get where you're coming from because it was going to be separate, but we'll do it for the same. We'll have 1 chair. Okay. Last call for any other nominations. Okay. I saw your name, Renee, but I saw you then delete it. I'm going to assume, if I don't see that attend by the time I finish my sentence, that you're going to be withdrawn that, in which case, Fergus, would you please come and take the chair?
There's a pizza in mine as well, Harris. Right, here we go. So at this stage, I would like to invite the challenger against scrutiny, the steering committee report to come up. Sorry. Cool. Okay, at this stage, I'd like to invite the challenger against the motion or against the decision to steer out the chair eligibility motion to come up to the podium. You've got 2 minutes.
Cool. So, yeah, I'm not objecting to the steering report. I'm objecting to the steering committee's decision to steer out motion 303, which was in the first draft order paper titled The Eligibility of Chair of Council Candidates. The primary reason for that is because the vote was split and was decided by the chair, which is which was Liv in this case. However, so there was 3 SABs in the meeting that voted for it, and there were 3 students that voted against it. And it doesn't necessarily sit very well with me that the SABs unilaterally basically made a decision to disallow student council to hear a motion, and the students on the steering committee weren't really heard in that scenario. Other than that, essentially it's to do with, so 2 SABs were able to vote in the decision by proxy, so the president and Eleanor were able to vote and they weren't in the meeting. I, as a member of steering, as a student member, wasn't offered the opportunity to vote, and I offered my apologies in advance of the meeting, so I don't believe that was a fair vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this stage, I'd now like to invite a member from steering committee to come and answer that. And you've got 2 minutes.
Hi, George. I totally get what you're saying, but basically the way the decision was made is that Eleanor and Abby submitted their apologies full of comments on every motion, just like Harris did the week before. Therefore, from there, and they actually said if it comes to a vote, this is what I would like to be voted upon. Submitting your apologies, I couldn't tell what your opinion would be. Unfortunately, if you're not in the room and you haven't submitted your opinions in advance, it's the only way I could do it. It was a split vote. It wasn't SABS trying to prevent student voice. It was the motion was not appropriate. It went against what our CEO and George have told us that would be possible and would go against our democratic principles. Therefore, I made the decision, because of the split vote, which constitutionally I'm allowed to do as chair of steering committee, because of the split vote, I made the decision, given the fact that the motion would not be possible or appropriate, to steer it out. The decision was not against students, it was not against you. Unfortunately, you were not there and you did not give me opinions. I can't message every member of steering asking for their opinions in advance. You're all adults, I don't have the time to do that. If you're not in the room, you don't get a vote unless you've sent me your opinions, so therefore I can get them and have the vote by proxy. So that's the reason why. It wasn't a silence, it was a simple decision made at the time. It wasn't an attack on anybody, simply a logical decision, and that was the only reason it was done. No, nothing against anyone on the motion, it was just the reason it was done.
Wicked. Not in this case, no. Cool. I'd now like to invite the... Okay, so we shall be voting on this. We need a super majority, so that's over 60%. So the question is, do you want to hear this motion at council, yes or no?
Just to clarify, it needs 66%.
66.
Over 66%.
Sorry, I have a question.
You've got to put a Q in the chat.
Yes, but I've just put a Q.
Yes, Abby.
Okay, right, so I was going to ask a similar thing. Do you mean like we would hear it in this council right now, or would it be in a future council?
We would hear it at this council,
Right, okay.
if time allows.
Even though none of us have seen it? Well,
It would be displayed on screen when we come to it.
right, okay, no, cool. Is that like your question?
My question was going to be, what are we voting on? What is the question?
We're voting on whether this council, or whether this motion is heard at today's council, yes or no. The motion that was steered out. Interesting. The motion will be shown once we get to it, if it is voted to council. Plenty of time will be given. What? Oh, hang on. Eleanor, you've got a point of clarification if you'd like to come up. Oh, sorry, Lewis, you were first. Terribly sorry.
I just would just like to know, is it the opinion of the chair that members of STEER should recuse themselves from the vote or not?
No.
So to clarify, people are voting on the objection to the steering report, which was in regards to the motion, and we're deciding whether that motion should be heard. Is that, yeah? Okay.
Okay. Okay. Angela, have you opened voting yet or not yet? Okay. Okay, so one last time, yeah? Steering committee steered this motion out. We've had an objection against that steering of it out, and the question that you will have is, should this motion be seen at council, yes or no? Today. And we're opening voting now. So the second motion is I'm aware that we've just had something that sounds like voting shut. We'll keep it open if we've still got technical difficulties. Okay, we'll give you 10 seconds. So if you've got a tech issue, stick your hand up. That was before we started voting, though. That was before we started voting. It's about 10 seconds. All right, we'll close voting now. Cool. So that objection has failed. We'll move on to the second objection to steering, and that was the original motion was to change the name of the Ethics and Environment Rep, which was steered out by steering committee, and I'd like to invite the challenger up to the podium.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Mead, and I object to steering committee steering out my motion to change the name of the Environment and Ethics Rep to the chair of the Student Environment and Sustainability Committee, because the reason they said they steered it out was because they thought that that people might get confused and think that I was trying to make it a chair like chair of council or chair of scrutiny. However, I clarified in emails that I was not trying to do that, and I also said that I could explain that in council in about 10 seconds or less, so that doesn't really seem like a valid reason to steer it out. Also, what's more, if this does get steered out, I'm here next year. I'm just going to bring it back, and if that doesn't work, I'll just keep bringing it back again and again. So in that case, I think it's really in your best interest to just allow it to be heard at this council to like save yourselves. Thank you.
At this stage, I'd now like to invite a member of steering committee up to speak about why they steered this motion out. And you also have 2 minutes.
So the reason this motion was steered out was because we were told by George, our Director of Membership Services, that it would be confusing. I understand you could explain to council, but not every student comes to council. If you were to make it a chair that way, it would have to be voted by a cross-campus referendum, unlike just in council like you wanted. And I understand, I'm happy to look at the way this role is done, but I think that the way this was done, you were moving it to a chair, but without giving it the responsibilities of a chair, like having to write reports for council and all that sort of stuff. Therefore, George, as our Director of Membership Services, advised me that it would be confusing. The votes in steering were 3 for steering it out and 2 against and 1 objection. Therefore, it was a majority rule that it would be steered out, so I do not think it's appropriate to object and have council vote on it because it was a majority. It wasn't even a split vote. So that was the reasons why. I know it's frustrating, but come to us and we can talk about how to improve that rep role and make it better and make it more visible. But if you don't want the responsibilities of a chair, we can't call it a chair.
That was from previously. You got to put it in the chat, Simon.
George Watkins can do it for me.
You put a POI in the chat for it. Go on. Are you gonna-
Anybody can say it. Sorry, just a point of information that you can't bring the same motion to council to council's running.
You got to go to the mic and say that, Simon, please.
Hi, Simon Gary, the Chief Executive. Just a point of information that whilst motions can come to council on a semi-regular basis, you can't bring the same motion to council to council's running.
Wicked. Cool. So we will now vote, and it's going to be the same question as the one before, okay? So, do you want to hear this motion today at council, yes or no? And we'll open voting now. Are we tech issue free? Are we still tech issue? We'll give it 10 seconds. I should voted. 6, 5, 2, 1. Okay, we'll close voting. So that objection has failed as well. And that concludes that part of council. Yeah, and Harris, if you'd like, you can have this seat back.
Thank you. Thank you, Fergus, for chairing that section. I may have been tempted to let you chair the rest of the meeting, but I left my pizza here, so that was never going to happen. Okay, grand. Okay, back to our normal ordinary business. So, other than those 2 things you just actioned, there've been no other objections to the steering committee report, so that's considered passed. There's been no objections to the scrutiny and disciplinary. reports submitted in advance. No, but before, we said that they have to be in advance. Oh, I see. Right, I see. Sorry, I got confused with the future. Any objections to these two motions, please type an A into the chat. You got 15 seconds. Consider that for both steering and the plenary committee report. Scrutiny report. So it's these three that they can object to. Okay, no objections, so they're passed. And I'd like to invite Abby Hutchison to the podium to present the State of the Union report.
Oh, the podium's a little bit further back today. Feels different. Right, give me 1 second. Good evening, everyone. There's so many people here today, so welcome to everyone who's new. It's lovely to have you here. I'm looking specifically at Sock and obviously New Sabs and New Libs. Yeah, so State of the Union, what's been going on? It's been a high-pressure semester, as it has all year, and we have been working really hard to support each other and to make sure we fulfill our goals that we set out in our manifestos. What have I been up to this semester? I've been focusing on running a mental health is not extracurricular campaign. That's a little typo on my State of Union report. It's not extracurricular, not that it's extracurricular. And so far, it's reached over 8,500 on social media, and we've run 2 feel-good events, one where we gave out 100 bunches of flowers and fruit to students, and another where we gave out 500 stress balls. And they all had links to wellbeing information on the website, and also our mental health is not extracurricular survey, where we've had loads of information from students so far about their experiences of wellbeing on their courses, which I think is going to be so useful when it comes to trying to secure resources for more wellbeing support in academic schools. So make sure that you fill that out. We really want to hear your voice. I also held Officers Forum and got feedback from everyone there on this campaign, which was great. And I have already received a report from the university, from the wellbeing team, about the current progress of wellbeing advisors. So just for context, these are like new positions in academic schools, and they're not in every school. So like we have a wellbeing advisor that straddles 3 different schools, like maths and what was the other one, Libby? Computing and SNARES, which is like huge numbers of students with one person. It's not enough. So we want them to do better, and we're really grateful for all of your help there. We have also secured £50,000 in funding for our new wellbeing centre for wellbeing projects, and I really hope that next year that the new SAVs can help to continue to support this campaign moving forward. In the CEO's PDR, I'm Simon's line manager, in case you didn't all know that. He also mentioned that wellbeing has become more embedded in our strategic direction due to like the influence that all students have had and the team this year, which I think is a really beautiful thing. So very happy about that. Also been working on consent and bystander intervention training, and we've finally written the report, which has had input from SUs all over the countries. We've spoken to executive board, got all of their questions and barriers to this happening, and I'm now presenting that report to various university members, which will hopefully complement Maddie's Do Better report within It Happens Here. And we're looking to make this happen before the end of the year. UCL are leading in the sector here, and they have given support to come in and chat to anyone who has any questions, which is amazing. I've also been doing some wide-stretching work. I've been supporting a student project called Community Fridge, which is a sustainability project to recycle food waste. They want to roll it out on the entire campus, which the uni is quite keen to do, but we're initially going to run it as a pilot in the student union with leftover food from the co-op, so you'll be able to get free food. Apparently it's mainly cauliflowers, so we'll make sure we put some nice recipes there as well, because, you know, we love a cauliflower, but we need to get creative. And I have also, I went on a study tour with Wonkechi, which is like higher education policy, student union policy firm to Scandinavia, which was really cool and inspiring. And since then I've been working with the equivalent of Norway Students' Union to implement a student version of CARA, which It's basically a program to support asylum seekers and refugees in terms of protecting academic freedom of academics. They can come over to Newcastle and teach here if they're threatened in their own country, with the intention of returning. But it's the student version of that, so it's basically that we've already got that in place. It does amazing things, but there's no student version, so it's called Students at Risk, and we want to make sure that we get this in place. We have also twinned with a student union in Ukraine, and the university has also twinned with a university there. It is called the University of Water and Environmental Engineering, and they are a social justice institution, which is really cool, and they're really keen to have a lot of dialogue there. What else have we been doing? We've secured a budget to support with graduations for those who find them inaccessible. So if you're struggling financially with funding your graduation, whether that's like travel for your family or anything like that, make sure you go to the university, because there's a pot of money that can help to support you. Moving on, Bree, she couldn't be here today, but she has been focusing on implementing support for student sex workers, which is informed by research and training that they went to as a welfare team. And there's a council motion coming today, which you'll hear more of from me as I'm presenting that on her behalf. And she is also writing a policy and creating a toolkit for students and staff, should this pass. She has been continuing with projects from last term, such as the LGBTQ+ safe space, which is now due to be completed in July, finally. I know there's lots of people in this room who will be really happy about that. Refreshing the Decol initiative agenda, and planning spiking mitigation for the summer months. While there are many great projects still to wrap up, she has been sure to make sure that they're in a place that we can hand over to the incoming SABs, which is exciting, and you can read more about her work in the end of term report. Livia and education. Her main priorities this term have been speaking up on behalf of students, especially those in final stages of study, to ensure that they feel adequately supported during the upcoming assessment period. We're aware that this term has been one of heightened anxiety for many students, and so she spent a lot of time and energy collecting up-to-date feedback, chatting to our student reps, and getting as much on-the-ground info as possible back to university to make sure they're doing enough for students. This has included raising concerns about in-person examinations, representing this opinion to senior management and heads of school, and that has resulted in ensuring that there are enough past exam papers available, encouraging schools to advertise drop-in sessions and office hours, where students can take time to complete papers, practice answers, all of that juicy stuff to make us feel more confident when it comes to our exams. Eleanor, postgraduate-wise, has been working on the PGR Strategic Delivery Plan, and it has now been passed by Senate, which is one of the highest up meetings, like our student union and council, but for academics within the university. So that's really exciting. It will now go into implementation, and she has fed back on this plan consistently throughout the year and helped to shape it. She organised a roundtable discussion with PGR school reps, which enabled the inclusion of PGR employment within the document, with a view to establish further the issues that PGRs are facing, being between staff and student status, and how the university can reduce these issues and their impact. So we're really glad to see that this is reflecting student voice, and that she got to present it in a very kick-ass way to University Senate, which was great. Eleanor's also been heavily involved, as has Livia, in renewing the Decol campaign, picking up where SABs left off last year, and making sure that that's becoming embedded in the university. We've rewritten the website, Eleanor's rewritten the website, to reflect what the campaign has achieved so far, so make sure you check it out. And they have also followed up with heads of schools and key members of the university staff to encourage them to be part of the pledge system, which is working. Fergus. Sports continue to thrive. There's been so much going on here, so he's given us a rapid rundown. The Cochrane Park bus trial is ongoing and will end on the 17th of June, so make sure you get involved in that. It means you can get to watch any sports matches that are going on for free, which is amazing. After that, it's over to Hannah to sort the long-term contract for students to access from September. We're still working on Team Newcastle logos. These conversations continue to be a long process, but now firmly have the support of those high up in the university, and I believe that the director of sport as well. And the idea is to create a powerful identity that will be easily recognisable and one that students identify with. The kit tender process is complete, but we cannot tell you who we've gone with as of yet, so that's a dramatic pause. Small interlude as well, we won varsity. Woo! It was really fun actually, and it was close, so it made it exciting for both sides, but we still won. With over 35 fixtures taking place, the celebration of sports was amazing, and Fergus, I've never seen him so happy. Active Women was a campaign run by Fergus, and it was a huge success. There were workshops from the Well HQ, which talked about menstruation, and the university investigating mass sports bars fittings in the new academic year. They very much proved that that's something that's really important when it comes to participation in sport. We are in the process of creating a wheelchair basketball club, and we have secured a £4,500 grant to buy the first 7 chairs, meaning the sport can hit the ground in September, which is really, really exciting. The AU Ball, not that I can remember much, was a roaring success. It included the presentation of the AU Awards and had 700 students there, making it the largest CSA event, all right, Fergus, that we've had so far. And there were lots of fun rides, which was amazing. On top of all of this, Fergus is presenting the Home Truths campaign to the council in a couple of weeks' time. So, yeah, so that's really exciting. Well done, Fergus. Harris. It's been a busy term for Harris, organising lots and lots of events. We had the most incredible Festival of Arts and Culture. Can we get a big round of applause for Harris on that one? And thank you to all of the societies and clubs who took part in it. There was food, performances, workshops. Literally had the most sensational pudding I've ever had in my life, so thank you very much for that. It was really popular, and we had societies from the Turkish Society to the Polish Society, as well as a fashion show, dance performance, and Bollywood dance, which was amazing. Harris has also been organising and hosted the Society Awards, which went really well, had a lot of fun there. Harris has also organised the Grad Ball, which is happening on the 12th of June, and he is currently still preparing that. He is also organising Pride of, bloody hell, Harris, you've got a lot going on. Pride of Newcastle with the university. And he is also working on the operations side of a grant that we received back in last semester to make sure that academic societies can be free to students for the first 6 weeks of term to help create a sense of belonging to your academic schools. George on student media. It's beginning to wind down, but not fully. As assignment season kicks in once more, and that does mean that it draws to a bit of a close, but there are some big projects still in the works. Aside from streaming Student Council today, thank you so much NUTV for doing that all year as well. You've helped to make council accessible during the pandemic, which is brilliant. So thank you so much for all the hard work that you put into this, but also for putting together edits for the final few videos of the year. There may even be a final few Fight Night streams coming up, which is exciting. And NSR is continuing their daily broadcasting and may even have a special commemorative show towards the end of the year in the works. For both NUTV and NSR, they are also working to elect their station managers for next year. So if you fancy it, well, I don't know if you can be a manager if you've not done it this year, but you should get involved regardless. The Courier itself has 2 more print issues until the end of May. The final project to take place is going to be a new end-of-year magazine out on the 2nd week of June, and will surely be a great showcase of the skills that the team has picked up over the past 8 months. It will also act as a springboard for the 4th branch of student media, which will sit alongside all of those that I have just discussed. This branch will focus on art and design, we love that, with its own committee of members there to complete and delegate requests from the other branches for art, photography and branding. On top of all of that, it's Media Awards on Friday, where hopefully so many of you who are so talented are going to get the recognition that you deserve. Finally, this is our last Student Union Council as a SAB team. You don't all need to cry about it too much, it's okay. But I just wanted to say a huge, 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 huge thank you. Obviously, we've still got a month. There's still so much to do, so don't think that we're slowing down. If anything, things have gotten even busier. But we just want to say a huge thank you for giving us the opportunity to represent you this year. It's just been the most incredible experience, and seeing all the amazing things students get up to and representing your voice has just been such an honour. So thank you to all of you. And as I say, we're not done yet, so keep coming at us with all the things that you want us to do. Thank you.
Okay, so if you want to vote, if you want to indicate in the chat with an A in the next 15 seconds if they object to anything that Abby's just said. If not, that'll be considered passed. You don't need to offer questions at this point because we'll move over to questions and mandates, and then that'll be your opportunity to do so. That was one of the business motions I was referring to earlier. Okay, State of Union report is passed. Stay there, stay there. And I'd like to invite the rest of the sabbatical team up to join Abby for questions and mandates to the sabbatical officer team. So if you all just want to reintroduce yourself, please, so everyone knows who you are.
Fergus Mainland, Athletic Union Officer.
Hello, Eleanor McCarthy, Postgraduate Officer.
Hi everyone, George, Student Media Officer.
Hi, Harris Nadeem, Activities Officer.
Abby, President.
Hi, I'm Olivia, I'm Education Officer. I was getting some water, I'm really thirsty.
Okay, I'd like to invite George Wood to a microphone to, well, that microphone, to ask his question.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. And we're incredibly disappointed as a SAB team with the allegations against NUS, and we absolutely do not stand for anti-Semitism and will not tolerate it as such. So far, we have already spoken to the Jewish Society because we wanted to make sure we were speaking to the community who obviously are being targeted here. And they worked with us, and we issued a public statement about the allegations, and they said that they were happy so far. Actually, it was Harris who was speaking to initially, but they were not happy, but they were content with the response and the action so far with what's the word? Sorry, it's been a really long day today. The investigation. So because they said that they thought that that was an appropriate action, that's what we did. So we put out a public statement. We've also, Simon's already had meetings as all the CEOs in the UK with NUS. I've had meetings with the Russell Group. On Friday, the whole SAB team have a meeting with the current president of NUS to discuss this further and find out what's going on. There is still representation from NUS in terms of influence on like ministers in government when it comes to some of their other like campaigns that they're running, like Decol, and like obviously at the moment when it comes to industrial action as well. So like they are still making sure that those messages and student voice is heard in that way. But yeah, we very much taking this incredibly seriously, and I hope that'll give you some comfort to know that those things have already happened.
Thank you, Abby. I'd like to invite Alex Walker to the mic to ask their questions. If you just make sure to either lean forward or speak loudly. If you can't hear yourself on the speaker below my legs, then they can't hear the call.
So, Liv, at the November Council, we voted to launch FOI into the Youth Institute. The when will this be acted upon, and why hasn't it been done yet?
Can Ellen answer because she was the one corresponding? No, she was just the one corresponding, so she's...
I was the one who ended up sending the actual request off. So yeah, I sent that off shortly after we discovered that it was late, and that got relayed back to council. And the university did respond within 20 days, acknowledging that they'd received it and saying that they would look into it. But unfortunately, we haven't had that full response from them yet. I have since sent 2 follow-up emails, which unfortunately, again, it's been really difficult to get a response from. So next week we have a senior management meeting with them where I'm going to bring this up and ask for further clarity on it. So they did respond within that 20 working days, but didn't give me a time frame of when the sort of wider response would be given. So I'll report back after that management meeting next week and hopefully have a bit more of a clearer idea of when that's going to happen.
No, go ahead, Alex.
Sorry, it's just I was going to continue. No, it is. I think the other thing is, Alex, I think another part of the motion when it came to rewriting NUSU anti-slavery policy, we're still waiting to hear back from you. And the Director of Marketing would love to hear your thoughts on that rewritten draft, the copy of it so far. So great for you to get back to us on that as well, and then we can... Okay.
My second question is to further to George's question. I'm not really interested in what's being done. I'm interested in how we managed to get back into this situation. These claims of anti-Semitism, they go back in 30 years. There are hundreds and hundreds of claims. They kind of go back to the 90s. We disaffiliated to NUS years ago. The Rats left the sinking ship. And then the Rats got back on the sinking ship as it caught fire. Well, how did that happen? Because it seems to be either gross mismanagement or ineptitude.
Well, I think it happened in something called a referendum in which the majority of...
Okay, this isn't a debate. Abby, finish your answer and then we'll...
Yeah, that's sort of my only answer. It happened with a very large majority in a student referendum.
Alex, did you have another question on a separate topic, or was that it? Okay, thank you very much. Elliot Kirkpatrick, you've got a question? Again, just try and be as close to the mic as you can.
Yes, sorry, I'm also asking a question about the anti-Semitism claims, because we, like many other people, are quite distressed, really, at the prospect that, we are joining an institution that could be quite racist, and these allegations go right to the top. Do you think, though, in the case of the referendum, do you think some sort of repeat referendum like the allegations, would be required, really, or necessary, because we don't want to associate ourselves with these type of people? And then also, could you basically say you already had talks with the members of the NUS regarding these? Could you tell us what has been said, what to say for themselves, and response to allegations?
Yeah, so sorry, we haven't spoken to NUS yet. That meeting's happening tomorrow, so you can come and speak to the SAB team. Obviously, this is our last council, but after tomorrow, we'll have more information on that. Sorry, Simon, what were you going to say, Simon? Yeah, Simon can give you an update actually from the CEO meeting because they had that on Monday. Ours is on Friday. So, Simon, do you want to clarify what you know? Yeah? I'll let Simon do that.
Hi, I'll just stick to the facts without opinion, actually. So the sat on a meeting with 72 chief execs with NUS in attendance to get an update on what they were doing, what the allegations were about, and how they were taking it forward. In summary, there was a 3-part investigation that they were looking to do on themselves. So you'll have heard the allegations, but in summary, the first one was about the current president and potentially things that have been said on social media or things in the past. The second one was from the Union of Jewish Students about how a speaker had been handled, really. And the third one was some allegations of things that had happened in the past and a long time ago. So what they are doing is they are appointing a QC, so they are appointing somebody independent and right to the top. They're working in conjunction with the Union of Jewish Students to make sure they are happy with the person that's appointed, so it's not whitewash and it's independent, and they are on board with the fact that it will be investigated properly, and they are looking to take any actions and face down whatever comes out of that from there. And that's as far as they've got at the moment. And they are looking to speak to all the officers to update them this week and then come out with some comms. And it's just a very difficult time for them.
Lizzie Mead, you got a question?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really important question, and be assured, I think Livia was mentioning what steering committee do.
Favour, could you just summarise the question being asked to you, just because I think the mic at the back's lost its battery, so just so people online can hear you.
Yeah, sure. So at the end of every council, there's an open debate, and last time, I can't remember the exact title, Harris, if you know it, let me know, but it was, we were talking about misogyny being a hate crime going through the House of Lords, and we were talking about like our experiences on campus and how we would like to see the university doing better when it comes to these this kind of assault on women, basically. And so Elizabeth just made a really important question there, just asking, we had those conversations and people were really honest and wondering how that information is going to inform action and whether or not it does. And what I was about to say is, be assured that it does. The report that I was talking about earlier, so part of the reason why we had that debate was, to find out more widely what we could be doing. But in terms of work we've been doing as a team, we very much, from evidence that we've seen at other universities, believe that our university is really far behind when it comes to the prevention of sexual harassment. And we want to see funding from the university for a really in-depth bystander intervention program, which the union would basically home, and we would hope that one day we can be on the level of UCL, where they've literally trained like 30,000 students with bystander intervention training. So that's one way in which that kind of, the fact that we had that debate in council was really powerful, because like in our report we've included that students do feel really strongly about tackling these issues. And so that is going to be, like, I'm going to be taking that report to executive board, to Chris Day, and being like, you need to do better alongside It Happens Here and the work that they've done. So know that your voices in that discussion were very much heard, and that's how we're channeling it this year and making sure that we can do as much as possible. But I hope that gives you some kind of idea of what's going on, and I'm really hopeful that we will get some backing this year, and by next academic year, at the very least, the consent training online will be a core part of induction, and then by the year after we will have had a consultant in to help us develop that training so that Newcastle can do better. You talking about the tree? Sorry, what was your question about that motion?
Just out of curiosity, this isn't me trying to hold anyone responsible. I'm just curious.
No, I know exactly what you mean. So it was actually interesting because the university had been having in parallel a very similar discussion, and the head of estates, director of estates, said that they didn't think that it was appropriate to plant a tree on campus for the Jubilee. So we have said, like, the motion was brought to council, so that was heard. But yeah, but the planting more trees on campus, we have spoken to estates about that, and they were keen to do that as well. So yeah, it's very much, and then also I hope that gives some like assurance to people who brought the motion that actually it was the university do know that that was brought as well, but they've just decided it wasn't appropriate for here. So yeah, more trees on campus. We love that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. If all the staff bar Livia, please return to your chairs. And because I'm about to.
All right, I thought I was like, what have I done?
And I'd like to invite all the liberation officers and chairs for questions and mandates first.
Can I bring my laptop, or do I need just use yours? Yours. Sorry, I can't speak today. Hi, if you'd all like to introduce yourselves, liberation officers. And chairs, sorry, should have included.
Hello, I'm Harris, I'm the Chair of Council.
I'm George, I'm the LGBTQ plus officer.
I'm Alex, I'm the Chair of Scrutiny.
Hi, I'm Nate, I'm the Marginalised Genders Officer.
Hi, I'm Sarama, I'm your International Students Officer.
Hi, I'm Renee, I'm the BAME officer.
I'm just move the mic along because he's not in the camera frame. There you go. If you go where that is, where Harris is. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, please put a Q in the chat. Can all sit down? Oh, there is a question. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Elizabeth. It was because there was a question above. Elizabeth, if you'd like to go to the mic. I take back the gavel slam.
No, take back the gavel.
No, the gavel speaks.
Hello, just a quick question for the International Students Officer. So speaking as an international student, I realized that I haven't really been keeping up with the sorts of things that you've been doing this year, and I was wondering what sorts of things that you've done lately as International Students Officer, which might be of interest.
Sure. So we weren't very active in the first term because of the few things, personal things that affected me and Zainab together.
Understandable.
Bree's aware of that, but for the second term, we've been talking to Alison Shaw, I'm not sure if you know her, about the things that we international students face when we travel and come here, with all the academic issues, because we're not really sure about the weights that are being taught here. So we've been talking to her about that, and we've been trying to organize some of the we're trying to organize some events to get the international students to come up and talk to us about the issues that
That's
and
really
we've been
interesting.
active on the social platform. I don't know why, but I think we weren't allowed to use our own page before, but I think we got access to doing it so in the second term. So we've tried and being active over there, answering questions that the people have about anything. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. There's another cue for Elias.
Hi, just another question for the International Students Officer. I'm just curious, with regards to the strikes, how are you faring? Have you been offered any compensation, any support? I know it's because this goes back to 2018 and prior, so has anything changed with regards to the response from the university or even the union?
Okay, so we've been talking, I think Zainab did contact Livia about the problems that we were facing with the strikes and stuff, because it's new, and I feel like everyone's going through this change, not just us international students. So we've been talking about it, but it's not under our control, so we haven't really been able to do a lot about this, but to tell everyone to be focused and do all the self-study and stuff that they can do with themselves, because it's something that we can't really do anything about it other than just talk and supply support to all the students that are suffering through it. Just that.
they've both been feeding a lot into me, and it's been really useful for me to feed into my university meetings to make sure the university aren't just thinking about home students, but international students too, when they're mitigating things. For example, recently in terms of, so if there, for example, with the marking boycott, potential resits and things like that, and potential visa issues, myself, Eleanor, and our SAC academic advisor have been working with the university on that to ensure that that support is available and listed about what to do and how to counteract that. So that's kind of, they've been feeding into that through me. Does that make sense? Oh, and Alison Shaw is the director of Inclusive Newcastle.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I meant to say that.
Mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. You're all free to go.
Thank you, ladies, for sharing that. So now we move on to the officer reports, executive committee minutes, liberation officer, NUSU chair, end of year reports, and sabbatical officer, end of year reports. These will all get passed as I've received no objections before the start of the meeting. So as such, these have all been considered passed. Grand, cool. Now we move on to meet student union, which are the motions. So, as mentioned earlier, I made a decision to have a direct business motions passed earlier because they were it was pertinent to do so, but just for clarity's sake, those were a business motion to add points of information to lists of points of order. So you all know what points of information, well, a lot of you do. These are now actually listed because they weren't before. To get questions all in one bunch. That was basically what I mentioned earlier. It was so all the questions were asked there rather than with every report, which kind of is redundant, so that was passed. And the other business motion was regarding NUS delegate elections. So due to our reaffiliation, we now need to elect NUS delegates to go to the conference, and this motion basically allowed for that to happen in both semesters, whereas prior it was only allowed in the first semester. So those are the business motions that passed earlier in the meeting. Now we move on to the ordinary motions, and I would like to invite Abby Hutchinson to propose motion 401 on supporting student sex workers. Whenever you're ready, you've got 2 minutes to propose the motion.
Can you let me get it on my laptop? Sorry.
Yeah. Whenever you're ready.
Right, hit me. Okay. Sex work is a wide umbrella term defined as the exchange of sexual services, performances, or products for material compensation. This can involve both direct sex work, popularly understood as prostitution, escorting, or an interaction where there is a direct sexual contact, and indirect sex work, which typically does not involve genital contact. Some examples of sex work include, but are not limited to, internet and webcam services, acting in the porn industry, glamour modelling, dancing in strip clubs, phone sex, escorting, selling clothing or undergarments for sexual gratification, being a sugar baby, indoor prostitution, brothel work, massage parlour-related prostitution, bar or casino prostitution, and selling sex. Research shows that a fair number of students participate in sex work, and different students engage in the sex industry in different ways. Many of the things that I've just described in that umbrella term. Anyone can participate in sex work. However, we do know that many marginalised identities engage in sex work and therefore may have different experiences of the industry. While we have data, there are many barriers that prevent students disclosing their engagement in sex work. So for us, the picture is not clear. The main barriers to students are stigma, prejudice, and fear of discrimination. This lack of disclosure means that many student sex workers may not reach out for help when they need it. There are numerous risks associated with sex work, and in the industry, these risks can quickly escalate. For instance, working as an erotic dancer may put a student in an environment where selling sex occurs, and some of the risks associated with sex work are, but not limited to, STIs, violence, sexual violence, physical and emotional harm, and unwanted pregnancy. It is vital that student sex workers know that they can turn to their student union for help as a non-judgmental, accepting, and caring space. They should be able to receive support and guidance, and staff must know how to handle disclosures of sex work. And that's why this policy is really important. So I really encourage you all today to pass it. And this was written by our Welfare and Equality Officer.
So, if there are any questions for this motion, could you please type a Q into the chat? I'll give 10 seconds before I open the floor for against and for speakers, or you can always ask questions whilst we're still debating, but the question should always be towards the proposer, not to other speakers. Okay, thank you very much, Abby. Is there anyone who would like to speak against this motion? Please type an A into the chat. You've got 10 seconds. I'd like to invite Alex Walker to speak against the motion if you'd like to pick a podium of your choice. And you will have, in interest of time, about a minute. A minute, not about, just exactly a minute.
Okay, I truly don't want this debate to become confrontational or difficult, because I honestly believe that everybody believes that they have the right of it and wants to do the best possible for all of the students of this university. I just don't believe that condoning a system that is propagated by and supported by misogyny, sexism, and a view of women especially as something that could be bought is in any way healthy. I also don't think many students at the university want their students' union or their university to be lobbied to support this kind of global trade in bodies, and I think a lot of people feel very strongly about it who don't often come to council, and we really need to consider those opinions, because there are so many sides to this issue. It's incredibly complicated.
Thank you. A question from Fergus, if you could just pop to a mic and quickly ask it.
So it's for Alex.
No, there's no questions to. These questions are only about the motion to the proposer. I'd like to invite Renee Bennett to ask their question, as long as it's for the proposer. No. So questions are only for the proposer about the motion. So you can continue to raise them. If someone brings up a point and you're like, oh, now I don't understand the motion, they're not towards each other. In which case, I'd like to invite George Wood to speak for the motion, please.
Thanks. Yeah, I think, NUSU's job is to represent and to support every student at the university, regardless of their background or identity or anything like that. And I think that covers student sex workers too. If you look at the statistics cited in the motion with the references, you see that actually quite a large proportion of students participate in student sex work. And I think by not having a policy such as this one, it actually contributes to the stigma around it. I find it relatively offensive that the previous speaker feels capable of speaking on behalf of the entire student body and what he thinks the student body want. And regarding his comments on the industry revolving around misogyny, of course there is misogyny within the industry, but there are also people who are not female participating in sex work. It covers a wide variety of people. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no further against speakers, so we'll move now on to the vote. If everyone wants to make sure that their mobile devices are primed and ready, for want of a better phrase. Okay, yep, so if vote's open now. motion has passed with an 80% majority. I'd like to invite Nathan Hartley to the podium, please, to propose motion 402 on transgender policy updates.
Harris, is it possible for me to go before this a second?
If you raise it correctly in the chat with an F, yes. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, so I'm just putting this motion forward to give some updates to the transgender policy. It's been like 2-3 years since it was last updated, so it's in need of a change. So it just provides some signposting to some legal documents that students can use, such as applying for a deed poll to change the name. Some terminology has been changed and updated to fit more modern usages of them. Information about the NUSU Trans Fund has been included, whereas there was absolutely no mention of this in the previous policy. The Trans Fund allows students to apply for financial support to pay for things like makeup or clothing, or etc. And there is also some signposting towards like outside organisations and groups that will provide support to these students who need it. And that's basically everything.
Thank you. If you have any questions about the motion, can you please have a Q in the chat? You've got 15 seconds. Okay, there's no questions for that, so yeah, you'd like to sit down, thank you very much. Would anyone like to speak against this motion? Please type an A into the chat if you wish to do so. Likewise, if you wish to speak for the motion, please type an F in the chat if you wish to do so. Okay, I'd like to invite George Wood to speak for the motion, please.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, me again. Just so I seconded this motion. I helped, well, I say I helped Nate. Nate did most of the work, but I supported Nate in writing it. I think it's really important that the union reflect the most up-to-date terminology and up-to-date practices regarding transgender people, as with all people in the university.
Thank you. Last call for any against speakers. Going once, going twice. Okay, we can move to a vote, please. Yeah, there was a slight tech issue, just the vote will be off from scratch. Okay, voting has reopened, so if you want to submit your votes again from scratch. But has passed with a 89.47% majority. I feel now is probably a more appropriate time to ask the question about extending guillotine as before we move on to constitutional motion. So I would, at this point, like to put to the floor that we push guillotine at this point to 8 p.m. To hear the constitutional motions to be put to council. Hopefully we'll be able to manage those in that time. So it'll be a simple majority vote. Once we're good to go. Yeah. No. Okay, so this is so the question that's going to be put to you is whether we should extend guillotine to 2000 hours, yes or no. So voting can open, please. Are we still waiting on votes, or?
I'm having some tech difficulties, but I'm sure mine, unless it's 50-50 hours.
Okay, well, I'll put them there.
Do you need me to go?
No, don't. Okay, so guillotine has been extended to 2000 hours, but with that in mind, let's see how fast we can go. Not rush it, obviously, but let's see how efficiently I should say we should go, so we don't have to necessarily stay that long. Order, please. Okay. Next motion to discuss is motion 301 on when no one puts themselves forward to campaign for a referendum. I'd like to invite Eleanor, please, to pose a motion on behalf of the steering committee. Whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Harris. So basically this comes as a consequence of the NUS referendum, but it refers to any kind of referendum that we may have at any point in the future. And in the last referendum we ran, there was some concern about what would happen if students didn't volunteer to run for the yes campaign or the no campaign. And it's not actually written anywhere in our official documents what happens if no student puts themselves forward for either side. So basically this is just getting it down in writing that if a student in a referendum doesn't happen to put themselves forward for either side, then NUSU doesn't have to go any further than just putting factual information in support of that side on the website, providing that they've advertised it widely to students, giving people enough time to run for either side if they want to. But it's really just so that this decision is made by the students, it's in writing, staff don't have to worry about it for any referendums in the future. And yeah, just to have that decision clear, that NUSU will just put factual things on our website for the side that doesn't happen to have a student running.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the proposer? Please have a queue in the chat if so. Okay, thank you very much. Would anyone like to speak against this motion, please? If so, type an A into the chat. speak for the motion? If so, please have an F into the chat. Alex Walker, if you'd like to go to the podium.
Yeah, this was definitely missing from the referendum recently. I know between about 5 and 10 people who would have quite happily ran the no campaign, but we
We have 2 people on the no. Don't interrupt the speech.
but no one reached out to us, so we would have all happily got involved. So giving NUSU an obligation to reach out to people is.
Reach out. Sorry, I'm leaving. You could
Well, you didn't reach out to me.
Order, please. Let the speaker finish.
Okay, I'm going to go home and check my inbox, but before I do that, let's vote in favour of this motion.
Thank you. Okay, if we can, is anyone last chance to speak against the motion? If not, could we move to a vote, please? Yeah, we can come to the vote. That has passed with a 94.44%. We've got a point of order from George Wood. Do you want to put on the mic?
Given that the group of people who just left
We're still at
are we at quorum?
We're still at quorum. Yeah, I'm going to assume George knows that. Okay, motion 302. Pardon? We're at quorum. Okay, so now we move on to motion 302, motion on fair referendum campaigning. I'd like to invite Eleanor, please, to propose the motion. Sorry, Livia, to propose the motion. At some point, I'll remember to answer you, so guys apart. Whenever you're ready.
Sorry, I'm just going to turn my brightness up because I've been trying to preserve battery life. To be fair, no one can tell me and Eleanor apart somehow. I think it's the height. So basically, this motion came to steering. George, who is our Director of Membership Services, proposed it. It is in no way about what your personal opinions are about NUS. It is simply about clarifying our constitution and our regulations that are about fair referendum campaigning. So this motion was brought in 2014, before social media was a big thing. And basically, it's just to update so that it would apply not just for NUS, but for any third-party referendum. It just makes things that little bit more fairer, and just kind of adds some things about social media. It's been to our returning officer, Tom, to check it all. It's literally just an update of policy. It's not about opinions about NUS. It is literally just about updating how we would treat an external third-party organisation if they were to be putting a referendum upon our campus. It's just updating them so that they're a little bit more 2022 and not 2014. That's all it is, really.
Thank you very much. So stick at the podium, please. Do you have any questions to the proposer? Please have a queue into the chat. All right, thank you very much. Does anyone like to speak against this motion? Please type an A into the chat. If you'd like to speak for the motion, please type an F into the chat. Okay, I'd like to invite George Wood to speak for the motion, please. Yes, of course you can.
Yeah, just quickly to add to what Livia said about it being discussed in steering. Yeah, we discussed it at quite a good length. The policy in its current form is just kind of combative, and it's kind of confrontational in its tone. So one of the things that this amendment does is just kind of tones down the confrontational language a little bit and makes it a little bit more pleasant, regardless of whether we like the NUS or we don't like the NUS personally.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to a vote. Please. Someone needs to submit a motion to give the SABs better mobile devices, I think. You voted? Close the vote, please. Okay, order, please. And that motion has passed with a 94.44% majority. Thank you. And I'd like to now invite to discuss motion 304 on clarification, that's my motion, on updating setting orders in relation to committee report objections. Eleanor.
Thank you. So again, this is more of like just a tidying things up motion and making everything smoother and make sense. So basically at the moment, scrutiny, steering and disciplinary reports are treated differently to the other reports in that objections can be raised in council, and then for the other reports, objections have to be raised before council. So this motion just clears everything up, which will make the running of council much easier, much smoother. And it makes sense that all of the reports are treated the same. And just to emphasise that this isn't about kind of the process of objecting to reports, which I know we've gotten into in previous councils, but this motion doesn't refer to that. It's just making all of the reports be treated in the same way, so that objections have to be raised before council. Because it's not really clear why those three reports are treated any differently to the other ones.
Thank you very much. Do I have any questions for the proposer? Please put Q in the chat. Thank you very much. If anyone wants to speak against or for the motion, please type in A or an F into the chat, respectively. Okay, in which case, can we move on to the vote, please? motion has passed with an 88.24% majority. At this point, for remaining motions, I'd like to invite Eleanor to chair the rest of well, Eleanor, Olivia, whoever who's steering will chair the rest of the motion.
Yeah, I'm gonna chair for a bit, unless you really want me.
Because I hope none of you are sick of me. The rest of the motions are all from me. I'm going out with a bang, so that's how we're playing council now, I guess. I'm just gonna stay here. That's all right. Great.
Yeah, actually, it's not, because I've never actually done full motions before. Give us a second to settle. Harris Qureshi, I'm going to invite you to the podium, even though you're already there.
Thank you. I do appreciate the introduction. Should I start my own time?
So, yeah.
Okay, this motion is...
Second, Harris, sorry. Okay. If you want to go and talk about your motion, I'll give you extra 3 seconds because it's gone down a bit. Yeah, go.
Grand. Okay, this motion is basically just in reference to what happened, I think, last council, where one of the councillors quite rightfully objected to a missing report, and we spent some time discussing that as the documentation told us to do. But as it became apparent, whether the objection was approved or disapproved by council, the proposal was still going to be sanctioned either way because they missed a report. So there's no point us debating on a sanction when that sanction is automatic. Someone has their phone not muted in the call, by the way, because I can hear myself speak. So this is basically to streamline that. If a report is missing, it's sanctioned. It also kind of gives some guidance on how to get around that. For example, if you submit a report, as I know one of the officers did, that basically just says, sorry, couldn't submit for this reason, here's my apology, this is what I'll do. That's still a report. You can submit that, and council can choose to either approve your apology or not by passing the reports or not. And it also just asks that then, as a courtesy to the councillors and to students, that by a week later, they then actually put the report onto the page, so then we still kind of meet all grounds.
Ooh, only a minute. Woo. Does anybody have any questions for the proposer? Would anybody like to speak against the motion? Please type an A in the chat. Would anybody like to speak for the motion? Please type an F in the chat. Thank you, Harris. You can sit down now.
Thank you. I was waiting for that.
I'm going to open the vote now, so any technical difficulties, please put your hand up, Eleanor and Abby. Commence the music. We are closing the vote. And that has passed. Woo. So we're going to invite the proposer of the next one to the stage. Harris, getting your steps in today, which is motion 305 to clarify the scope of the chairperson's ability to address council. If you have... Wait, let me restart it, sorry.
You just press both the left and right buttons.
Oh, cool. Okay, you have 2 minutes, go.
To explain this motion, I'll start to read the resolves first and then justify them afterwards. So the resolves, 8A is what's already in the documents more or less about what I can do, but B and C is what kind of gives the chair more right to speak. The way I see it, no one's actually debating anything during questions regarding reports, questions regarding SABs and LIBs. So just asking questions as any student has a right to do with elected officers. And so it doesn't seem like it's a problem for the chair to be also, as a current student, also be able to ask you questions. Again, there's no debate, there's no kind of real conflict of interest there. There's already things in documentation that lets you challenge a chair if they're being completely like egregious, so that covers that if they ask something completely inappropriate, and that's enough to kind of get the chair to self-govern really and not ask something really inappropriate. And the, as it currently stands, the open debate at the end of council is very, we deal it with very informally. The chair already offers their opinion during the open debates because it's mostly like a focus group style area anyway. And so it kind of just fits with what we do already to kind of give the chair the ability to speak there. So that's kind of just occasion. It's more a case of let the chair, as also a current student, be able to kind of ask questions of reports and of other officers without having to necessarily go through the whole reclusion if they just have one question to ask.
Sorry. Does anybody have any questions for the proposer? Please put a Q in the chat. Would anybody like to speak against the motion? Please put an A in the chat. Lewis, would you like to go? You put an A in the chat? Yeah. Thanks. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Harris. Would you like to sit down? Sorry. Oh, well. Sorry. Get in the hang.
Hello there. I'm against this motion primarily due to the section on the open debate. The participation of a sitting chair in a debate goes against the very foundation of our democracy, that the chair must be a neutral arbitrator. It also makes the open debate impossible in its original formation. It's been noted that currently we generally use it to get student opinion, but that is not necessarily the way that the open debate can be used in writing. The open debate can be, and has in the past been, a formal debate between parties arguing both sides, which I will say we need a neutral chair if that is going to take place. I also see the motion as generally unnecessary, as if the person who is chair wishes to participate in the open debate, they can do exactly what we're doing currently and simply recuse their role as chair and allow someone else to stand. In summary, this motion is unnecessary, damaging to our democracy, and would bring the neutrality of the chair, which the council relies on, into question. Thank you.
Thanks. George, you have a question? Would you like to come to the microphone? Is it for the proposer? Brill.
Yeah, so I think Lewis does have a good point there about neutrality with the chair. I was wondering, does the chair feel that this motion is necessary still if they were to kind of recluse their position as the chair to participate in an open debate or to participate in council? And if the proposer does believe the motion is still necessary, would they be willing to accept a procedural motion to clarify that they would recluse their position in order to participate?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I think if someone put a motion in future council to actually clarify and re-bring up in debates to what they're originally intended to do, then yes, that part wouldn't be relevant, and I'm actually got my thumb on the press button to submit that procedural motion to remove that from the motion if that's the contentious point. I think it all depends on whether or not council in the future intends to make it back to the formal thing it used to be, or if because if it's informal, it's for me to step out of a chair for like 5 seconds to say a word and step back in again in the same debate. Seems a bit odd to me, but I guess if the intention going forward is to make it more formal as it was apparently intended to be, then yes, I would remove that, and I might press that button now actually. Yeah, why not? Let's do it. Let's be dangerous.
Seconds. We're just clarifying some things.
Thank you for the update.
I'm sure you're all on the edge of your seats. Well, yeah, because like the whole point is that you get to speak. Then will they all kick off with you? Okay. Okay, we're going to accept that friendly amendment. So can we move on to voting now? We're going to move on to voting. That friendly amendment has been accepted, so it now is the update on the screen.
It won't change it on the screen, but it'll just be noted in the minutes that was removed.
So basically, what's been removed?
It's A to C that we're now voting on.
We're voting on the sections A to C. So like that, yeah, the bit that says to rule, George.
Is it A and C rather than A to C?
A and C, sorry. So it's literally just removing A and C. Yes? Removing. It's been an extremely long week. We're removing B. So please vote now. I'm glad the chair can't ask questions right now. I'm going to open the voting now. Yes, please close the voting. Connor, what does this mean? It's failed because it needed the simple majority because it's super because it's constitutional, isn't it? So it needed 66. Wow. Does anyone remember the 50-50 programme on CBBC? It was class. That's what, anyway. Yeah. Now we're going on to motion 306. I'll invite the proposer of this motion to come to the stand. I nearly said stage, but stand. You have 2 minutes starting now.
Yeah, this motion has a lot of moving parts to it, so let me see how well I can describe it to you. That makes it clearer. The title's a bit of a misnomer, that's on me. I started writing it as one thing and then realized there was other things I needed to kind of address while I was writing it. Yeah, so there's the Constitution, at the moment, the document mentions observers, it doesn't actually clarify what and who they are. So this kind of gives a very broad kind of strength of all the types of potential observers I could foresee happening at council. So for example, we've already seen today staff being invited by sabbatic officers to speak to council. That's not actually in the standing orders, that technically shouldn't actually be allowed, or maybe could be, it's not clear. So this clarifies that staff can speak in limited capacities, and that this document kind of helps clarify that. In the past, we have invited members of the university, say the Vice Chancellor, to address council on relative things. This accounts for that and lets it in guidance so people can actually rule on it. You don't need to be a voting member at council to speak at council. You can just be an ordinary member. This, I believe, helps reinforce that, and it helps clarify that you don't have to have a voting place to speak at council. I also put in a thing here about ordinary life members being invited to bring expertise on potentially certain subjects to speak at council. And if that's something that they have to ask to do so, and if council agrees, that's then supported, but they don't, they have to ask permission for in advance. They can't just, ordinary life members can't just honorary rather, can't just rock up to council and be like, hey, I want to speak at council. The councillors need to permit that. That's kind of the broad strength. It kind of allows more guidance to the chair for some things which already happened, some things which may happen in the future, and the more things actually in documentation, the more easy it is, I believe, for future chairs to make a ruling and actually feel supported in doing so, rather than having to be a bit less clear. Less clarity, I don't think, is a good thing. That's kind of my intent behind bringing it to council.
8 seconds left. That was good, Harris. That you managed to do it all in 2 minutes. Does anybody have any questions for the proposer? Please type a Q in the chat. Kaylee, would you like to go to the microphone?
Hi, I'm just kind of worried about how, how much you mean, like, you would be involved. Because, I mean, if it's okay if you just, like, come in to observe and give pieces of information, but I feel like a lot of the point of council is it's passed over to the next group of students who have more of an impact. Like, it's a thing that we pass on.
It's not technically a question, Kaylee.
No, but my question is, like, I said it first. I was like, how involved would you be?
Right.
Like, is it just points of information, or would you be, like, actively fully involved? Sorry.
Can I just check? Are you talking me or you in the royal sense?
Well, no, I just mean if this were passed, what would the honorary members be allowed to do? Like, specific, because I feel like it's, I don't know.
Okay, I understand the question, yeah.
Sorry.
No, if any given honorary life member sees a motion, if they continue to be engaged with NUSU and feel like, oh, this came to my council years ago and this big issue was raised and people might not remember it because they're not one here, they could be like, hey, Chair, can I come and mention this just so councillors have more informed opinions about what was debated 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. But that would have to be for the council and the Chair to agree on. They can't just be can't storm through the room and be like, objection, like it's Phoenix Wright.
Is the
Give a reference for you there.
Thank you. Alex Walker, would you like to go to the mic? You really wasn't your last chance up to the mic, Alex.
No,
you
no,
lied to us all.
Yeah, well, so I've got a question, Harris. So my father, who is an alumni of Newcastle University in the year 1992, were he an honorary life member today, age 52, could come to council and talk on a motion about Newcastle students. Is that really worthwhile, reasonable, or kind of necessary?
So you're asking, would your dad, if he had an honorary life membership, be able to come? Is that
I
what you're
mean,
asking?
is this honorary life membership
Yeah.
forever? So
It's honorary
someone
life,
like my
yeah.
dad could come along and do
If
that.
they're honorary life memberships, yeah. If this was to pass.
Is that good?
Sorry, can I answer?
That's for council to decide.
Should I
Yeah,
answer the question for the?
Yeah. Can you please let Harris answer? Thank you.
So if this theoretical honorary life member of 50 plus years wrote to the chair and the chair thought the reasons they gave were appropriate and adequate, then the chair could allow them to come. But the chair you could be like, well, no, it's not relevant, and say no, and then that'd be it.
We've got a point of information from George Word. Would you like to go to the microphone?
Yeah, I would just like to clarify that, I know it's in here as well, but I just want to clarify because the last question possibly hinted that this wasn't, the person asking the question wasn't aware of it. Honorary life members are just people who have made a significant contribution to NUSU for like former officers or people who have made a significant contribution and they are given out on a discretionary basis. It's not just any alumni.
Cool. Would anybody like, Harris, would you like to sit down? Oh, we've got another question. Joseph?
Yeah, I was just wondering, does this basically mean that if someone can come along and say, oh, this didn't get through last time, it kind of like just reiterates that discussion without change of, oh, it didn't happen when we talked about it, so it shouldn't happen when you talk about it, if that makes sense?
No, they couldn't, because that would be offering if it said that exact words, no, because they'd be offering an opinion. That observer scope would only be able to come and offer points of information. So they can't come and say, like, this shouldn't pass again because it didn't pass here. If the chair felt it was necessary for them to come along just to tell somebody that didn't pass before, then yes, but the chair could equally be like, well, no, I can pass it on your behalf and not let them come. I hope that answers your question. I think it does. But they can't offer opinions, can only offer neutral points of fact if they were allowed to speak at council. In that, what I assume would be an exceptional circumstance.
So I'm going to allow this next question, Lewis. This will be the final question, and then I think we're going to go to a vote. Oh, no, Then we're going to go to foreign again, sorry.
If the definition of life member changed again, as it is changed this year, would the motion still be in effect? So, for instance, if we changed life members back from being just officers who've submitted reports and exceptional students back to all the members, would the motion still be in effect?
That didn't happen. It was there were two. There's ordinary life members and honorary life members, and they both exist. That never got changed.
Okay.
But the question I imagine you're asking is if the definition got changed to be broader, would that apply? I would hope that if that did happen, all of these would be taken into account, and council would take necessarily steps to be aware that would be what would happen. That seems a bit of a speculative question. I don't think it's particularly relevant on now.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks. Right. If you would like to speak against this motion, please put an A in the chat. Fergus, would you like to go to the mic?
I think...
Oh, sorry, Harris. Do you want to... Does Harris need to sit down? Yeah. Yeah, would you like to sit down? I'll let you rest your legs.
I think one of the great things that I've learned this year is just how incredible our students are, and how that the current cohort of students should be trusted to make the decisions as to what best represents the students at the time. And I think, quite frankly, if we've got someone coming back because they felt they knew better back in the day, I don't think it should. It inspires and empowers the current generation of students. And I think that the university and council at the moment is what truly represents our student body at the moment, and we should be making decisions based upon where we are at the moment, not based on the advice of people who think they know better because we did it previously.
Thank you. We've had a procedural motion suggested. I'm going to allow the next person to speak against while we try and work out what this means. So the procedural motion says to add resolves to review this motion in the event that the definitions of honorary and / all ordinary life members change. Me and Connor are just going to work it out, what that means. And I'm going to let only the person who put an A in the chat speak. Alex, if you'd like to speak against this.
Honestly, I'm back on my feet again. I don't think that people should be able to come back after they have left university and left the university community to address issues in student council. This, as it stands, is far too open. Submitting a procedural motion to add resolves, I don't think is going to change that enough. It's just unnecessary and will potentially cause massive problems. And I don't see the point other than sort of satisfying kind of these very, very small numbers of cases when people who are returning maybe a year later, maybe 2 years later when they're on a gap year, or kind of, it seems ridiculous to me. So I don't see the point.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just... so there's been a procedural motion that I read out there. I don't think it massively changes what this is trying to do. So, Harris, would you accept this as a friendly amendment?
I would. Can I also raise my point of order? That's okay.
Yes, sorry. It looks like it was me that typed in, but it's because your laptop. Yeah, of course, go.
Yeah, fair enough. Forgot about that. I have 2 points of order. One, we shouldn't have continued council discussions whilst a procedural motion was being discussed. That's not how. That's against standing orders. So you shouldn't have allowed a against speaker whilst you were deciding that. Also, we've had 2 back-to-back against speakers and no for speakers. So you need to ensure that we have at least 1 for speaker. If we don't, that's kind of out of order. A second speech, because then we've not had an equal debate.
I'm really sorry. I'm quite new to the chair role and I didn't realise that that was the rules. I really apologise to council for not allowing and the option of another 4 speaker and for doing the procedural motion before. Apologies to council. Yeah. That procedural motion has been accepted. That'll be added and we're just going to go to a vote now. Oh no. Oh, sorry, I have to allow the votes. I'm really sorry, I'm really tired.
Yeah, I think any concerns I had have been solved with procedural amendment, and I think that this motion is actually very important because it brings us out of the realm of precedence and into the realm of actual written rules for council. As we've seen, there's multiple cases where we've had observers and speakers come in that aren't actually written in the rules, and especially for the point of controversy that's been raised about life members, as the ruling stands right now, an honorary life member is classed as the same as any student, which would mean that you wouldn't even potentially need the allowance of the chair of council to come in and speak and even stand to vote in council. So if anything, this motion reduces the likelihood of there being former students coming in and getting in the way of our democracy. It means that the chair of council must give them permission to observe and give their guidance. Thank you.
So the proposer has put in a procedural motion to remove the VIII honorary members, so that it would just remove the honorary bit. However, as chair, I believe that considering the title is about honorary life members, I think that that significantly changes it, and I don't feel that the proposer should be able to put in a non-friendly amendment, so I'm not going to accept that, and we're just going to move straight on to a vote. The resolves are just quickly being updated before we vote. Yep, closing the vote. That has failed as it has not reached the 2/3 majority vote needed for a constitutional motion. We're moving on to motion 307. Can I invite the proposer up to the podium, please? You've got... Can everyone be quiet, please? 2 seconds, I'm just getting the 2 minutes done. You have 2 minutes, go.
So this is another meeting motion, and I think it can be boiled down into two kind of main arguments. One, liberation group societies serve a purpose where they are an important space of solidarity and support and peer support and community and awareness raising by students for students. And I cannot emphasize how important that is. I would not be here today if not mind the gap that kept me as healthy. I'm not healthy, I'm mentally ill by all means, but I'd be much, much worse and perhaps not even in uni had it not been for the support that society gave me. That being said, these societies and societies like it are really struggling post-pandemic with the whole recruiting 15 members, having to maintain that. It's a lot of spoons, it's a lot of effort on student committees to basically recruit and focus on giving that engagement, and that's energy they could be spending actually supporting the student. And even if there's 14 or 13 or 12 or 10 or 5 students who benefit from this group, that group should still remain. I don't think the risk and the threat of de-application on them is fair and and should exist. I think if 5 members benefit from a space of solidarity that should exist. And so moving it into what this motion will do, part of that will be to move that limit. The other part, and perhaps the biggest part, is I feel a lot of what these groups do fits much more comfortably under the liberation kind of umbrella. I think, you know, and this motion I feel would kind of bring a stronger line of communication between these societies and their respective liberation officers. I think it would bring a stronger relationship between them and Welfare and Equalities Officer. There's been times in the past where I have wanted to run mental health campaigns but not received support from former welfare officers because my up as a society, I shouldn't be going to welfare officer about that. And the Society Exec Committee has limited support to give to such a thing. And then I find out later on that the welfare officer has run a mental health campaign when this could have been very much a joint endeavour, which I think would be kind of benefit from this situation.
Does anyone have any questions? Please type a Q in the chat. We had a W there. Reminder of who you are, Alex. We know. Elias, if you'd like to go up to the podium and ask a question for the proposer.
Hi, yeah, I actually really back this. It's a great idea. But I'm just wondering, are there any compliance issues, because I used to be a trustee, are there any compliance issues that may implicate whether we're allowed to have less than 15 members per society, or is that completely up to us? If it is, go for it.
My understanding is that's a NUSU policy. Because, in fact, we even changed it for London. We bumped down London from 15 to 10 because they couldn't get the engagement, which is a completely separate thing. It's nothing to do with this, but it's in our policy, essentially, yes.
So you'd be reducing it to 10?
No. Sorry, I was citing an example of how we've changed it in the past for London campus, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
We bumped that 15 to 10, just to reiterate that as policy.
Yeah.
Sorry for the confusion.
We've got a question from Renee.
Hi, can I ask more than one question?
Yeah, go.
Okay, great. So my first question is, how would funding work for like these groups?
That would be part of this motion is to, I should point out that the result of this motion is to investigate the possibility of this rather than necessarily put it through, which was a result of a steering discussion that lasted quite a long time. So a part of the investigation would be to look into that, but we don't control the finances, so it's the finance committee, so they would look into it and resolve it the way they seem best fit.
Okay, thank you. My second question is, would like the current liberation officers be in charge of basically approving if these societies get quote unquote ratified? Because essentially that's the question.
So the motion, the way the motion proposes the change to work if the investigation backs that it's feasible is that it would mechanically work very similar to how it does now with very select changes, the changes being the ones I've listed in my resolves. And so with that in mind, if all you're doing is removing the 15 limit, there is very few other grounds to not ratify society, and that's primarily because there already exists another group that so closely resembles it. There's no point having two separate groups. And so really, I guess practically what that means is that if this eventually comes into fruition, welfare exec, not liberation officers, welfare exec, which includes liberation officers, would, if they get a new liberation group, would be like, you know, would basically first confirm that it's a liberation group and doesn't belong more in societies as per the way that this motion separates them, and then whether or not it's a distinct enough thing.
Amazing, thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from Alex Walker, if you'd like to go at the mic.
So I think this is a great motion. I think it acknowledges something really important about these societies is that they are essential to maintaining student welfare, especially in a kind of
This isn't a question, Alex.
Yeah,
you need to
I'm
get
building
to it.
I'm building to it. Why haven't we thought about applying similar measures to all society groups? Because I'd say all societies perform that service, even if just for the near future. But I do think it's a very good motion.
So my answer to that would be that that's not in the scope of this motion. If someone believes that other societies shouldn't have this limit, they're free to bring that to SEC or submit as a separate motion. I was concentrating purely on liberation groups, and I think because they're a distinct enough thing, I think they're distinct enough from societies in their aims and purpose, and I think that they are particularly more vulnerable to kind of the two-way, expenditure of energy and having to support students that this extra burden isn't appropriate. So I think they're a distinct enough thing is kind of my short answer to that.
Thanks. We've got a question from Jeremy. Are you in person or online? Oh, Jeremy, no, we need you to ask it, but it's there. Oh, he's online. Would you mind asking that, like, physically, like unmuting yourself if you don't mind, Jeremy?
Yeah, sorry if you can hear me now. It's just a bit noisy where I am.
Yeah, we can
Does the
hear you.
removal of the 15-person requirement mean that society is still ratified if they're unable to fill treasurer, welfare, etc. positions?
Yeah, so in the resolves in 1C part 3 that addresses that it would still exist, yeah. I guess I could have just said that, not cited it, but whatever.
Okay, I'm going to have our final question from Abby, if you've got the mic.
I was just curious, other than the obvious that the societies that you've included in there are welfare-related societies, why haven't you gone through activities exec or anything like that? I don't understand why you're putting this under the welfare officer. Do you think that they have enough time on their hands to run something like this?
So, to clarify, is the question A, why didn't I discuss this motion with Society Exec Committee first, and B, do I believe that the Welfare and Quality Officer has enough time to do the votes? Is that what you're asking? Okay, so for part A, several reasons. One, I think this motion encompasses more than societies. It encompasses, like you said, welfare, and so I think it needs to go to the next stage up, so then both parties can discuss it in an equal way. I've tried in the past to do things that involves more than one group, and it's caused issues because there's not been that communication, and so I thought, well, just bring it to council, where council is the next stage up and kind of oversees both of the committees anyway. So that's the prime reason. There are other reasons, but for time I won't go into them, because I think that's a fairly good reason in itself. And I think student council, echoing the voice of students, is ultimately the body that kind of guides and advises on how they feel sabbatical officers that they've elected should be using their time, and if they voted in favour of this, that would be them mandating that they believe this is something that should be used in their time. If they don't believe that, then they vote against it.
So do you think that this should replace some of the other work that the Welfare and Equality Officer does because their time's already at capacity?
I mean, I obviously believe that because that's why I proposed a motion. If council agrees that this takes over some other things, then they'll vote for it. If they don't, then they vote against it.
And just to clarify, so you didn't take this to societies exec?
I think I've mentioned it in the past, like years ago, and it never really got any traction. And I've had
this year.
So yeah, but
Okay.
recently, no.
Okay.
Okay. Would anybody like to speak against this motion? Please put an A in the chat. Harris, our current activities officer, would you like to go to the podium? Well, not the podium, the mic. Harris, you can sit down. Proposer Harris can sit down. Karen Harris, stand there.
Right, thank you, Liv. I totally agree with the sentiment and understand where this is coming from, but I think in terms of the practicality and in terms of the operation side, this is really difficult, and it really confuses that who would take the responsibility. Would it be the welfare officer? Would it be the activities officer? One point which I think is really, really important, given that there was no consultations from the societies, this was not discussed at the societies exec. I believe we have 8,000 students in our societies, and this was not discussed from the society. So I think this is, and one final thing which I believe is an easy fix, according to me, is just taking this to the society's AGM, where I think this belongs, and just identify these liberation societies, and then just remove the condition of 15 members to this liberation societies, and then we won't have to do all of this work. And yes, that's basically my argument.
Thank you. Point of information, Harris?
As a point of information, 3 of the societies that this would feasibly affect have seconded or proposed this motion.
George, would you like to speak for this motion?
Yeah. So I think this is a really important motion. I think given that a lot of the liberation societies currently represent marginalised groups, I don't necessarily think it's fair to assume that given that the majority of marginalised groups are minorities, that they can get the numbers as easily as more general purpose, general membership societies. So I definitely agree with that aspect. As for what Harris, the activities officer, said, I think points D and E of this motion quite clearly clarify that this would be a welfare campaigns liberation exec issue and not so much a activities exec issue.
Would anybody else like to speak against this motion? You put your A in the chat. Oh yeah, go.
Yeah, I don't want this to come across as if I don't agree with the sentiment, because I think, like, there are some incredible things that those kind of societies do, but I just don't. I think what Harris was saying is right, that this is going to create a lot of work and doesn't necessarily fit within like the job descriptions of what it does teeter into activities, and I think that makes it really confusing, and that council isn't the place where this should be discussed. I think definitely you're right. I don't want you to not be able to run a Mind the Gap campaign, because that's a fantastic society. But if it's not getting enough members, then I don't know. I feel like this isn't the place where we need to talk about it. Like, you mentioned that there are 3 societies on there. How many societies do we actually have in the union? Like 100 and 250? What? 180. Like, I think this needs to go to more of a broader, like Harris suggested, AGM. But don't get me wrong, I agree with it, just I don't think this motion is quite where it needs to be, and perhaps if there was more consultation with NUSU before that, then it would be.
We are going to now move on to a vote. Harris is raising a point of order.
I don't think we can declare the vote just yet. We only had 1 for speaker and 2 against speakers. That's not an equal debate. There were 2 against speakers and only George spoke for the motion.
As chair, I would like to apologise. I thought that the proposer and then 2 against counted as 2 fors and 2 against. But as chair, given the time, we're nearly at the guillotine and that everyone's voted, I'm going to overrule that point of order, and we're just going to go and keep the vote as it is, because I think it's fair as it is, and I apologise for my misinformation, my misunderstanding, but I believe that that was fair at the time. Yes, is that passed? Oh, that one's failed. So we're done now, I think. Harris, would you like to come back to the chair to close council?
I'd like to recluse the chair back to Lydia to rule on my procedural motion, because it hasn't been addressed. It needs to be ruled on. I submitted another procedural motion, which
Would you like to all, right, we're going to vote on whether my chair ruling was fine or not. Seems to be the theme of the night. Again, I'm going to apologise to council. I'm sorry I didn't realise that was the rules. As far as I was aware, it was 2 for and 2 against, so.
Dodgy chair, Olivia.
You wouldn't do this to Simon Cowell. Eleanor, have you put... Come on then. Come on then. Give us your question.
Does this require just 50%?
This is a simple majority. No, the question is, do you agree with the chair's decision to the question is, do you agree with the chair's decision to overrule the point of order? Is that right? Yes or no? So the point of order that was made was that there should have been another for speaker to speak after the other against speaker. And that was the point of order that I ruled over. And that's what we're voting, whether that was right or not. Can you all get on? The vote's open. Has everybody finished their votes? No one's got any technical issues? All happy? Cool. Right, that's the voting closed. Thanks, everyone. So the original vote stands and the motion failed. So I'm going to invite Harris back to the chair to close council.
Thank you. Thank you, Olivia, for chairing that chunk of council. Appreciate the effort you put towards it. Okay, so we're moving over to student notices. If anyone has any notices they wish to make at this final council, the last chance of the year, please could you type a Q into the chat. Jack Malison, if you'd like to come to a podium, please.
Today is going to be the day that I have an announcement. If you're a member of Sock, the socks are now officially on their way after a long, very, very long awaited time. I can now sleep again without seeing socks in my dreams haunting me until we do this all again next year. But I think we should also say a huge thank you and congratulations to this year's sabbatical team, not only for their part in creating Sock, as small as it was, and the obstacles they put in the way for it. However, a huge thank you for the job that they have done so elegantly this year. And a quick reminder that you should all join Sock next year for more sock-based shenanigans.
What? Okay, fine. Guillotine Housing Breach of Council is officially over. However, there are several notices, and I'd like to make a closing kind of just a thank you. So if people would want to wait for that, they can do. If they want to leave, you're free to leave as well. So council is officially adjourned, but I would request councillors to give 5 more minutes just to hear out some final notices, if that's okay. So if you want to leave, you can do. If not, I'd like to invite Abby to give a notice.
Really, really quick one. Please, can you fill in my mental health is not extracurricular survey? Thank you. You can win £100.
Okay, can I... Lizzie? I don't know what happened there. Okay. Order, please. Lizzie? Is Lizzie Mead still here? Yeah, can you please give your notice? Thank you. There's a mic there. It's quicker. Okay. That's fair.
Okay. Hello. First, I'd like to announce that, well, speaking as head of current affairs at the Courier, there still are like a couple more opportunities to get involved with the end of year magazine thing at the forthcoming student media afternoons. So if you're interested in that, check out the Courier's social media. I'd also like to say, since the first council where, to my understanding, all of our newly elected officers for next year are present. I'd just like to say congratulations to everyone for getting elected. I'm staying on next year for my MChem program, and I look forward to seeing all the stuff that you do. And also, congratulations to this year's sabbatical officers for everything they've done. Speaking as environment and ethics representative, I appreciate everyone's support for various environmental motions this year, as well as the plan to put more trees on campus. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And lastly, congratulations to everyone on student council for coming in and participating all year, and good luck on all of your remaining exams.
Thank you. Okay.
Just a quick reminder, everyone, that the voting for the Faith and Belief Officer will be open now after council, and will be open up until 12 o'clock midday tomorrow. And can we please all have a round of applause for Harris Qureshi for his final council as chair? I think we can all understand that he's done an amazing job.
Okay, very quickly, George, Renee, and a final word from myself. George.
Yeah, mine was just going to be a massive thank you to you, Harris, for chairing all year and making my first year of council and student politics a lot easier.
Thank you. Renee?
Hi, everyone. I'm going to make this quick. Thank you for everyone who's here right now and everyone who's worked very hard. BAME Union has a podcast. It's not the best because my voice is very annoying, but it is there, and I think it will help a lot of people of color and even people who aren't of color to understand like the student experiences of BAME students. Yay! Yeah, that's true. It's called For the Culture, and it is on like all podcast platforms, and you can hear it on NSR as well. Goodbye, everybody.
And then just finally, two finally. One, Simon's asked me to remind council and everyone watching that if you wish to apply for student trustee position, it's open until tomorrow. End of tomorrow, Simon? Yeah. End of tomorrow. And on that note, I just want to use the close of council for a little tiny brief self-indulgent sign-off, because it's probably the last visible thing I'm going to do at NUSU as a student volunteer. Mostly I just want to express gratitude because NUSU has been so fundamentally important to shaping who I am as a person. It's given me so much. I know in the 8-ish so years I've been here as a student, I've probably done my more than fair share at rocking the boat and being a nuisance to the various sub teams and to most of the members of staff and committee and fellow students. But equally, all those people have been so important to me ever since I moved to Newcastle, and I had to figure out who I was as a person for the first time in my life. So I just kind of want to thank everyone over those 8 years, including this year, who've kind of supported me as a student, because NUSU is my family at Newcastle. And I'm still going to be here for longer as a staff member, unless I go to work tomorrow as a P45, which I'm not ruling out. But that's a different life. That's the definitive end for me as a student member in NUSU, and I just hope all the ways that I've given back over the years have kind of helped other students feel equal at home. So thank you, and on that note.